And welcome to a very special edition of the Clouse Q Show. I'm Jason Clouse. He is Quadell Edwards, and you are here because this is one of the most anticipated episodes of the year of our show, and we certainly appreciate you taking time out of your Friday night to join us. Q, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, well, actually longer than that, and now we are here. We are excited. The energy in the overall studio is off the charts. We have two very special guests that are going to join us because if you recall, back in April we did a WrestleMania preview episode, and that went so well and received such rave reviews. When Q and I said, well, we're going to recap SummerSlam, it was a given that we would have these two back. So please welcome to the show, back to the Clouse Q Show, Brian Bolf, and my co-host on the Power Trippin' Through the 80s podcast every Wednesday on the PFC Entertainment Network, the one and only Shawn Grugel. And gentlemen, we certainly appreciate you being here tonight. Q, we got to start with you, man. I mean, let's go back to last weekend. It was on August the 5th, Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Yep. Over 59,000 fans filtered into Ford Field. You were among them. So, overall, what was your experience at SummerSlam?
That was a brutal show, guys. Look at me. No, it was a pretty good show. It was very long show. Actually, being there live with my son, it was a very long show. But other than that, it was some nice, good quality matches. Some good, some not too good. But overall, the experience was pretty awesome.
We're going to break it all down here over the course of the next hour here. But before we do that, let's talk about real quick, guys, the significance of this particular event. When you talk about the four tentpole events, or the big four, it's WrestleMania, it's Royal Rumble, it's the Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. This thing debuted in 1988 at Madison Square Garden. And from the gate, you knew on that night that this was going to be one of those events that would become must-see. And now, 36 years later, and it's the first time in 30 years that Michigan hosted a SummerSlam. If you guys will recall, in 1993, the Palace of Auburn Hills had SummerSlam, and that's when we were treated with that wonderful end of the main event, Lex Luger and Yokozuna. So... At least we didn't get that kind of ending to the show this year. Shawn, we'll start with you. As far as SummerSlam is concerned, where is it on your pecking order for the Big Four?
Anymore, it's number 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
93, I was there during the Lex Express tour. Yeah. I was at the Kmart in Auburn Hills. Rest in peace, Kmart. But I got to meet Lex Luger there, and I was awful excited for that main event. But SummerSlam anymore, it just seems like there's so many pay-per-views anymore that they kind of get washed out. And when I saw this card for SummerSlam, it was almost like they threw it together in a matter of weeks.
Right.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, each match had a story to it, but it was thrown together so quickly. And in my opinion, this card was so predictable to me, except for one match, that I really didn't give too many thoughts about it. I didn't think about buying tickets. I was excited for the different people that were telling me they were going to it, but at the same time, I'm like, nah, I'll get a better seat from my couch.
For sure. Yeah. And much to your point, they put these tickets on sale months ago, like back in the spring, I felt like, or late winter, right? Like when the announcement was made official, it's coming to Ford Field, which when I heard that, I was like, holy crap, like they're not going to Little Caesars Arena. They are going to fill the home of the Detroit Lions. Like this is a major stadium, but I feel like, and much like what you were saying, there's so many pay-per-views or premium live events, as they're called now. It's hard to kind of filter one from the other, and I feel like that's why your Royal Rumbles and your SummerSlams are going to these 40, 50, 60,000 seat arenas, or these baseball and football stadiums in an effort for them to stand apart. Brian, when you think of SummerSlam, where is it on your radar?
It's 4. It's always been 4 for me, though. Like, it's not anything that's changed. Royal Rumble's my number 1. WrestleMania's my number 2, just because of the spectacular that it is. 3 is Survivor Series, just because those were always my favorite ones when I was younger, when we used to rent the VHS and stuff like that, and it was like the 4-on-4, and they'd have all the build up to them. And then SummerSlam was always, it's never really, there's no real gimmick to it. It's just SummerSlam.
Summer.
Okay. What about you? I mean, when you heard that SummerSlam what was coming, I mean, was it got to get tickets like right this second? Or
No.
was it just because they were bringing an event, a pay-per-view to Ford Field?
This was mainly for my son. He really wanted to go. I'm one of the biggest wrestling fans out there, but my son, when he found out that it was going to be in Detroit, he's like, "It's going to be in our backyard, Dad. We got to go." I said, "Okay." So I took one kid, out of 5. And, I let him enjoy because, we always go to Raw, we go to SmackDown, but we never been to a pay-per-view / PLE or whatever.
Right.
But so it was a cool experience, but as far as where it lays on the pecking order, for me, I always tied it with Survivor Series now, but it used to be number 4, but now it's like right there neck and neck with Survivor Series. Especially since they kind of like stripped Survivor Series of the original gimmick. It's not what it used to be, so it's almost like SummerSlam 2.0,
Right.
But in the winter.
And I feel like that's what really set like the Royal Rumble and the Survivor Series apart, because they had a complete theme. Like the entire show was built around a concept, whereas your WrestleManias and your SummerSlams is a card of matches, right? We talked about this card going into it, much like what you were saying, Shawn. They put this thing together in a matter of less than a handful of weeks, it seems like. Even though if you're a smart mark or whatever, and you subscribe to the dirt sheets and your Dave Meltzers of the world, your Wade Kellers of the world, like they think that they have it all figured out, and even their forecast weeks out wound up not being accurate to. I mean, obviously everybody knew what the main event was going to be. That was on full display very early on. Like, this is where we're gearing towards. But there really wasn't that one match where I was like, this is the one that I'm waiting for. Now, there was one that, like, of the matches that were signed, I'm like, okay, well, this is the one that has most of my interest. But as far as a big time, like, this is the match you have to see, the match of the summer, I really didn't feel that way with anything. So we're going to break these down match by match. Some of them we will spend more time on than others, just because of what went on in that particular segment. I was kind of surprised, guys, when they opened up with Logan Paul going one-on-one with Ricochet. And I've made no bones about the fact that I am not a big Ricochet fan. Logan Paul piques my interest because of what he's been able to do in a very short amount of time. It's unheard of. But this match, I really feel like you knew it was going to be a spot fest, right? But was this the match you really needed to open the show with? Q, you were in the building, man. What was that atmosphere like when these two walked out for the opening match of SummerSlam?
It was a lot of energy. It was a lot of energy. Maybe because we had to sit through that hour-long pre-show. But once they came out, we knew what to expect. A bunch of flips, a bunch of acrobatic maneuvers. And a lot of people in that building pretty much knew what the outcome was going to be because it was very predictable. But, it was a lot of energy in there. Was the match really all that? Depends on who you ask, I guess. If you like all the flippy stuff, then, man, you probably really enjoyed it. But as far as the story and, all the psychology, I feel like it was just missing something. Logan Paul is great. He's actually better than a lot of people give him credit for. But, Ricochet, he's a flipper. You know what I'm saying? He's a flipper guy. You know, he doesn't have too much personality. I don't hate the guy. I like the guy, but you know, this mix-up, you just knew what you're gonna get. You knew what was gonna come out of it. You know, just a bunch of flips. And I went for Logan Paul. I knew Logan Paul was gonna win it.
Right.
Because they gave him a guy for him to beat.
Right.
So how they were gonna get there, you know, that was the question. But I knew that Logan Paul was gonna get the win because he hasn't gotten one since SummerSlam last year.
Right.
This is what, 0-4?
Yeah.
Well, what was your take overall, Ricochet and Logan Paul?
I'm not a fan of either one of them, really. I mean, and I'm not a fan of that style of the big spots and stuff like that. I knew that's what it was. I wasn't surprised that they put it first because I thought they're both going to try to go for everything and pique everyone's interest. And then I was like, oh, it does make sense they're going first. It's because Logan's jumping on the plane and going to his brother's fight.
Which I didn't know anything about until later on, so that made perfect sense. So were you shocked by the outcome here?
No, not at all. Yeah. I figured it was 100% that's what they were going to do.
Right. This match was the one that was kind of stands out for you, Shawn.
That was the match that stood out for me. And it did surprise me that they put it on first instead of going for that gradual build. You know, because when you book the show, you want it to build like a roller coaster. It starts off a little slow, gets hot, bring it back down, bring it back up again. This match started off hot. Logan Paul, I think, is second as far as most hated goes in the WWE right now. I mean, right next to Dirty Dom. And without Dirty Dom on the show, I mean, you put Logan Paul out there, and it's like instant heat.
Right.
I knew it was going to be a spot fest as well. I mean, we saw this going to happen at the Royal Rumble when they, collided in midair. Ricochet, like you guys, I'm not a huge fan. When he was Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, little more personality, little more character. Here he just second fiddled a broken Braun Strowman, and here we are. Logan Paul had to go over. You have to boost the advertising for Prime. As you saw, he grabbed a Prime from a kid. Even though they just come out with these new rules that you can't take a drink from a fan, he grabbed a Prime from a fan. Had to get that advertising out there.
Yep.
Twice he did.
And
same kid.
But Logan Paul has absolutely no business being as good as he is. I mean,
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, he's like you said, Bischoff, his timing is down. He knows where he's at in the ring at all times. That flipping clothesline he did over the top rope to the floor was just amazing.
It was, yeah.
So whether you like Logan Paul or not, if he signs a long-term contract, that man is bound to be U.S. champion sooner than later.
Yeah.
It's a good
I want to add one thing that Logan Paul does really, really good. Same thing that Roman does is play. He know how to play the crowd.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
He plays the crowd real good, and being there live while he's over there making fun of us and everything, it was pretty good to see.
He'll say something and he'll let that crowd breathe and take it in. Like,
Yep.
what did he just say?
Yep.
And then, boom, he'll hit him again. That's what I like about
He's good
Logan
at that.
Paul.
Yeah, he's one of the rare exceptions that can make a crossover and actually make something of it. And you're absolutely right. The guy's got all the talent in the world, all the ability in the world, and the sky is the limit. Much like what you're saying, it all depends on his level of commitment. If this is something that he's going to be very serious about, not only could he be the United States champion or the Intercontinental champion, there's nothing with that guy's reach and popularity across a lot of realms of social media. Putting the WWE championship on him is not necessarily out of the question, because that would bring so many more eyeballs to a growing fan base, right? Yep. I mean, if you want that next big boom, as much as it pains me to say it because of the realm that he comes from, this could be your guy. Talking about the guy, we make the transition to the match that follows this, and
this is gonna be fun. Yeah, go ahead.
It was the rubber match in a 3-match series or a rivalry between Cody Rhodes and the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar. Now, Cody Rhodes, I've made my points about this guy. I have my feelings and my opinions about this guy, but then I watched his documentary that is on Peacock, and I know, but listen, I got a better appreciation for his story as a man, not necessarily what he's doing in the ring, but I have a better appreciation of his story for that. Now, that did not deter me away from cheering for Brock Lesnar because I was very much hoping that Lesnar was going to break his arm. On paper, this should be a mismatch, but somehow these two made it work,
They did. It was a solid match. It was a lot of people say that was a match of the night. I'm not gonna say that, but it was a pretty solid match. Being in that crowd for that Cody Rhodes entrance though was and I know you guys text me and said, "Are they piping in anything?" I said, "Man,
there's no way he's getting a pop that loud."
This crowd is going crazy and just looking at everybody singing a song and knowing all the words and everything, and I'm just sitting here like. But it was cool to see, it was cool to see, and seeing Brock live is awesome, man. The guy's back is ridiculous. But the match, I feel like it should have been a stipulation in that match, especially since we had the spot where Cody grabbed the steel steps and blasted Brock Lesnar, and the crowd reacted like
in front of the referee.
In front of the referee.
Right.
So I feel like that was a little misguided there, but overall the match was okay. The ending spot where they shook hands and everything, that was cool to see. Brock had a little wardrobe malfunction. Seeing that live was weird, but overall,
a little rip in the shorts,
man,
right?
a big rip. Man, where you get those shorts from? That was like Wish. But they had a good match. They had a really good match. It was fun to see.
So Cody Rhodes gets the win here over Brock Lesnar.
I did pick Cody.
Wins the rivalry. Now, obviously, it seems like he's going to, be the next one in line for Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship. But
maybe.
Brian, what did that endorsement from Brock Lesnar to Cody Rhodes do for Rhodes in moving forward and being a part of the world title picture for Monday Night Raw?
I think it's big. I mean, I heard it was unscripted.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see the shock on Cody's face.
Yeah.
When he did it, he was like, oh, "What's going on?" And I mean,
waiting
if
for an
somebody's
Right.
big as Brock comes up to you unscripted, I'd be nervous too.
All right.
But I mean, that says a lot because that's not really Brock's style either.
Exactly.
So
what
it's
I
like,
thought, too.
oof, okay. I'm like, even with Brock giving him a nudge, I can't stand that guy. I'm just going to call him Billy Idol from now on. I can't stand him. I can't stand his hair. Nothing about him.
I appreciate that. I feel like I'm going to start incorporating that as well.
And when you say Brock's back was ridiculous, are you talking about his tattoo? Because you should see the one on the front. It's even worse.
Shawn, what'd you think here? Brock Lesnar doing the honors for the American Nightmare.
I chose Brock. I wanted Brock to go over.
Yeah, I did too.
This match, it looks like, and let's go ahead and break that wall of kayfabe. It looks like they didn't talk a whole lot out. It was just like Brock saying, "Okay, I'm going to go out there and toss you around for 20 minutes, and we'll take it home." The endorsement, yeah, great. Cody Rhodes getting the consolation prize from Seth Rollins is even better because I really think that the Raw title, WWE World title, whatever it's called, is very secondary to Roman Reigns right now. I don't think Cody is the guy. I don't see the toys on the shelves with Cody. I don't see the product endorsements with Cody. I have zero faith in Cody. I don't care about his documentary. I wish Brock would have broke both his arms. So.
Could this match have been better? Would it have been a better presentation if they had this third installment inside Hell in a Cell? Could they have brought Hell in a Cell into Detroit and made this match more than it was? Because when you traditionally put a match in the 2 spot, it's to bury it because that's your weak match. You can't really say that with Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, but could we have done something to add more pizzazz, knowing that they were going to build this as the blow-off match? Q, could Hell in a Cell have worked here?
Could have something. I was hoping for a bull rope match. That's what I wanted. That's what his
That's
dad.
old school there.
Yeah, that's what his dad used to do. So I wanted a bull rope match, but a Hell in a Cell would have been definitely something. Something other than a third traditional, normal match, between these guys. I mean, it's bad enough that it's a trilogy, but to not have a stipulation in the third match, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. That could have had a big moment there.
With a move that was fully able to disqualify Cody with the ring steps.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. Is there another type of stipulation, Brian, that if it wasn't Hell in the Cell, could they have done something to add?
You mean we could have had 2 MMA style matches? Brock in there?
Yeah, but we
Cody couldn't win then.
For sure. I mean, for sure. At the same time, yeah, we'll get to that one later on. But before we do, let's talk about the match that I really was. This is the one that was on my radar. This was my go-to match for this card. The Intercontinental title was on the line when Gunther put the title on the line against Drew McIntyre. Now, these two were part of a triple threat match at WrestleMania that involved Sheamus too, and you knew on that day that these two are among the most hardest hitting guys that are in WWE right now. I love the fact that Gunther has restored some much needed prestige and credibility to the Intercontinental Championship, one of the most iconic titles in the history of this business. And it had been flopped around quite a bit over the years, but Gunther, as of right now, is less than a month away from becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, smashing the record of the Honky Tonk Man, and we thought that was going to last forever. But this guy, Gunther, is going to be one of those guys that's going to be the next go-to or one of the next big main event stars. That's on full display here. Now, with Drew McIntyre, a former WWE champion, and he's headlined, WrestleManias and things of this nature, is a demotion for him to once upon a time was world champion. Now he's not only challenging for the Intercontinental Champion, but he gets beat clean in this match. Gunther is no joke, is he, Shawn?
No, Gunther is definitely a throwback. He reminds me so much of like Walter Killer Kowalski when he comes to the ring. But much like you, very, very disappointed in the booking committee to book Drew against him, to not only lay down to Gunther, but to lay down clean to Gunther. Now, I know that was used to elevate Gunther or whatever you want to call him, and elevate the title.
Walter.
Yeah, but Drew, he didn't even have a chance to hold a world heavyweight title in front of a live crowd. He was doing it in front of TV screens.
Yeah.
Kind of disappointing to see a former heavyweight champion in this position, but at the same time, let's build a guy that's going to get the heat, and let's build that Intercontinental title.
Did this live up to your expectations, Brian, in terms of what this match could have been versus what was presented?
I'm not a Drew McIntyre fan, and especially since he broke out the sword. He's such a gimmick to me. I feel bad that he didn't get a chance to hold the title in front of a live crowd, but it ends there. I love Gunther though. I think he's awesome. I think he has some of the best matches. Him and the Mad Dragon is awesome. I still want to see him come up from NXT on the day before he beats that Honky Tonk title run and be see him do one more match, those two, because that match was amazing. Yeah. But if you took Drew McIntyre out there, I would have been great. I'm just not a fan of him. I was like, come on, just beat him as much as possible.
So if
I had to watch myself there.
If it wasn't Drew McIntyre, who do you think should have been in that spot? Because the Intercontinental title match for a long time was one of the most anticipated matches of every SummerSlam. I mean, up until, I guess, maybe after '93. It seems like everything kind of started going downhill after '93. Because you think about the other title matches that took place at SummerSlam. Ultimate Warrior comes in and ends Honky Tonk Man's reign. He regains it from Rick Rude in '89. The Texas Tornado wins it in '90. Bret Hart wins it from Mr. Perfect in '91. And then '92, you had the Wembley Stadium match with the British Bulldog and Bret Hart. That's what I looked at this match as, is on that caliber for the first time. Did you not see it that way as far as an Intercontinental title match?
On paper, yeah. I feel like this match was missing something.
Sheamus.
I would rather
was
seen
gonna say,
I'd rather seen Sheamus in
definitely-
that spot.
You
Is
know,
that right?
Yeah, I would have.
Me too. You know, Sheamus actually got a story
Yeah.
going into this. You know, that's the only title that he never held. So, I mean, but I wouldn't. At this point, Gunther needs to hold this title because I would like him to break that record. Because to me, I would pick Gunther over the Honky Tonk Man.
100%.
I don't know if I can do that.
You know
though.
what? I got to. If he's been champion this long, I pick Gunther over the Honky Tonk Man. I was never a big fan of the Honky Tonk Man, you know. But
I don't even know how we're friends. I'll be straight up with you.
but as far as the match goes, I feel like it was missing something. It was I feel like Drew needs a fresh coat of paint. You know.
That I'll agree with.
Yeah.
Like,
He needs
get
a
rid of
fresh-
the sword, like,
Yeah.
like what you're saying. You know, does he need to go back to that? You know, with his hair in his face?
psychopath.
Yeah. Does he need to
Yeah.
go back to that? Because
No,
is
'cause you
that
got Karrion
what?
Cross doing that.
Yeah. Well, put them together as a tag team. Let's start building tag team
And call them
divisions.
bangs.
Yeah, something. It's better than swords.
Yeah. Crossing swords.
Crossing swords, yeah. So, yeah, I agree with that. He needs to go, maybe have a heel run, you know. Maybe this will, you know, make him have one. Maybe he's pissed off now. Maybe
Right.
he wants to have. Don't be surprised. That's
I was like, wow, you're getting fired up. Worried about me getting fired up in this.
But
I got it. The honky tonk Drew.
oh my God, the honky tonk man. Jeez, yeah, break that record.
Hey,
Come
it
on.
worked for
Come
Rhythm
on.
and Blues.
Come on.
It's
break
very
that
clear
record.
that if you come out with a guitar, Jason's a fan of you.
That's not necessarily accurate.
okay.
Jeff Jarrett sucked. Okay?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm not a fan of him either. But I would like to see, right before Gunther break that record, I would like to see Honky Tonk Man come out there.
I'm kind of anticipating.
And I want Gunther to chop him and he just turns into dust.
I feel that's what would happen. Is either that or he's going to drop because his heart's going to stop on impact. All right, real quick in this last segment before we go to a commercial break here. On paper, this should have been a co-main event, but in reality, it was what it was. Ronda Rousey went one-on-one with her former tag team partner. They share a lot of the same background. They have the same, you know, athletic style. It is Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler. You know, the news broke going into this match the week of that, by all intents and purposes, Ronda Rousey was on her way out of WWE. So it was kind of a foregone conclusion, much like the predictability aspect that you guys were alluding to earlier. But Shayna gets the win here, Brian. Like, no shock here because Rousey is on her way out. Where does Shayna Baszler go from here after this big win? And does it mean anything in the grand scheme of things?
I feel like you're, with Ronda taking the loss clean at that, like, I mean, this got to be a push for Shayna. Like, if not, it's like, what a waste.
For
Agreed,
sure,
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, I'm not a fan. I mean, I feel like that's what this whole show was. A bunch of people I'm not a fan of.
was
And
gonna
I
say.
think that's what kind of ruined it for me. Like, I like some of them, but the rest of them, I'm like, oh, God. But I'm a fan of MMA.
Right.
Like, that was a big thing. So I was like, okay, this might be interesting. And then there was like moments in the match where like Ronda's like freaking out, like, you can't have a doctor in here look at her. I'm like, yes, you can. They do it in MMA all the time. If you have a cut above your eye, the doctor comes in, looks at it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it was.
forgot where she
I'm
was
just.
at.
That was the biggest moment for me because I was just screaming at my TV. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. You know better.
Right. Shawn, for a lot of us, this was the bathroom break match, right?
Yeah, I was included in that.
Do you have an opinion one way or another over, you know, Shayna Baszler and her win over Rousey here?
You know, it's been said that without Ronda Rousey, women would have never main evented, you know, in WWE. I kind of disagree with that. Ronda Rousey, I don't think never really found her footing when she got into WWE. This whole deal with Shayna Baszler, I really think it was a blow-off, so to speak. I mean, yeah, Ronda elevated Shayna, but when you watch that quality of match, when you watched how slow it was, sure, they threw some stiff shots at one another, but at the same time, that match was slow, boring, and predictable, and they looked like they were lost for 90% of it. Shayna Baszler, She should be on a higher tiered level than what she is, and I hope the endorsement from Ronda will give that to her. But at the same time, the women's division, in my opinion, is starting to falter and fall. I think the women's tag team titles are cursed.
For real.
Yes.
And so I don't think there's going to be too much competition for Shayna Baszler out there at this point to be able to main event a WrestleMania or, even a main event.
I mean, a believable match. And he makes a great point here, Q. You look at, because for the longest time, the women's division was becoming the must-see segments of the show. With injuries and departures and things of this nature, who are the big stars in the women's division? You can make the argument that the three biggest ones will be competing later on in the show for the women's title. But then you look at Rhea Ripley, who wasn't even on this card, didn't even have a match here at SummerSlam. She's got the world women's title. Is that where we're going now? Is it going to be Shayna and Rhea Ripley?
I hope not. I mean, I'm not ready for that. I mean, but it's kind of hard to say because it's the women's division is just so confusing right now to me. It's, who is really getting the push? I mean, they left Becky and Trish off the card. They brought Trish back for this, and she didn't even make it.
Right.
So it's so confusing how they view it. You almost got to look from their point of view. The people that's writing this stuff. But looking at it from home, it's weird. To me, Shayna should have been built up a long time ago. Why are we waiting right now?
Right.
NXT Shayna was a beast.
Oh, right.
And we never got that on the main roster. She came up biting people. So, I mean, it never made sense after that, So it's very confusing. I don't know. The match didn't do anything for me. I was one of the ones in the bathroom, waiting in line to go in the bathroom. But it did nothing for me. I believe maybe if they would have did like a fight pit type match or something, where they can hit each other and still do like some normal things to each other. But the MMA rules match for a crowd that might not be predominantly MMA fans is not the way to go.
For sure. They didn't buy tickets to a UFC show. They bought tickets to a WWE show. Great point. If they had put this in like one of those old school Lions dens like they did with Owen Hart and Ken Shamrock in '98, that would have been what they needed to at least make this match on paper a little bit more appealing. We've got a lot more to tackle here on the Clouse Q Show. We are going to run a quick timeout, so don't go away. More of our SummerSlam recap is right after this, live on ONTV.
9, 8.
Are you or someone you know having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance abuse crisis? 988 connects you to compassionate, confidential support for free.
988.
988 is the new 3-digit dialing code for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For years, the Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, has answered tens of millions of calls and helped people overcome mental health-related distress. 988 is the same trusted resource. When you call, text, or chat 988, you'll be quickly connected to trained crisis counselors who will listen to your concerns, provide support, and get you additional help if needed. There is hope. The Lifeline works. You are not alone in crisis. Just call, text, or chat 988.
988.
Knowing how to identify signs of crisis in others and help connect them to resources like the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is an important way to prevent suicide in Lake Orion. For information about free suicide prevention trainings offered in our community, please visit the North Oakland Community Coalition at noccmi.org.
988.
The man.
I hate you so much right now. Welcome back to the Clouse Q Show, very special edition here. We're talking all things SummerSlam. We're recapping the big pay-per-view event that took place last weekend at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. I'm Jason Clouse. He is Quadell Edwards. We're being joined by Butthead and Shawn Grugel. Our Stan Lee of the operation here. Brian Bolf is joining us. Now, gentlemen, we have the second half of the pay-per-view card to break down. There's just so much within these 4 matches here. It's going to be hard to get everybody's opinion and to get all of our things out there right now. So let's just jump into it. LA Knight wins the big SummerSlam Battle Royal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously this was a highlight because you really hoped that this was going to go the way that it was. Now, I thought all the wrestlers got their own entrances because while they were setting this match up, at home we were watching a promo, a vignette. Q, that wasn't the case. They came out in full unison until it came down to LA Knight and then AJ Styles.
And The Miz. The Miz got an entrance.
Well,
He should have.
he's A-list.
But Austin Theory, your United States champion, did not get an entrance.
That's one of these things.
That was confusing.
This is the thing about this battle royal that I believe annoyed not just the 4 of us, but how many thousands of people at home watching. Because you look at who was involved in this match, and obviously the one that stands out is Austin Theory, the United States champion. Why did he not have a title match? This dude is on the uptick. This is going to be one of your next big future stars, and he got buried in a battle royal. Shawn, you and I mean, we've been in the business. We think as promoters at some points, why are you putting one of your fastest rising stars, one of your title holders, in a battle royal? Makes absolutely no sense here.
Why does he got the U.S. title on his shoulder in the graphic?
Right.
What was the point of this battle royal? What is the perceived outcome? Was there a title shot involved in this? No, they just said it's a battle royal because Slim Jim wants it, you know.
Win
And
a Slim Jim.
huh? You win a Slim Jim? But I mean, you look at the caliber of talent that's in this battle royal. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura, you know, former, champion. Tommaso Ciampa, NXT champion. You know, Karrion Kross is soon to break out, hopefully.
Right.
AJ.
Yeah, AJ Styles, former champion. You know,
Sheamus. I mean,
Sheamus.
Sheamus. And then my pick that I know everyone else disagrees with is Omos. I think Omos needs to be built as a giant monster. I mean, yeah, cool, great, 15 guys it took to throw him over the top rope, but you are wasting your talent in a battle royal that has no bearing on any title
stakes.
matches or anything. Just because Slim Jim wanted it, we're gonna have a battle royal.
That money. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it's all about. And it does annoy me because the ring aprons were all Slim Jimmed out. The ring posts had their logos on it. It's like, holy crap, this is where we're at now in terms of advertising. Brian, LA Knight, like it looks like they're finally going to put the rocket to this guy. How huge was this victory for him?
I think it was awesome. I was like, thank God. That's
Yeah.
why I wore my LA hat. I was between 2 different ones. I was like, this was my favorite match. Just because I was hoping LA was going to win it.
Because
and
you're
he did.
a fan.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people I didn't like getting tossed out, which was great. The only thing I really wish was I wish it would have came down to LA Knight and Omos, and he would put him over himself. Because
We talked
when
about
they were
that
going
for
back and
text,
forth,
yeah.
oh man, all you could hear was everybody popping.
Yeah.
Like if he would have just beat him clean, that would have been an even bigger push for him.
For sure. Now, throughout the course of that show, you heard, you watched everybody's entrances from Logan Paul down to Roman Reigns. The pop that LA Knight gets with his win, was it as loud in the stadium as it came across on television?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was that like?
That was one of the biggest pops of the night. One of 2. of the biggest pops of the night. LA Knight, man. Everybody, even before I even got into the building, you hear people in the outside in the crowd going, yeah, yeah. Everybody's yelling all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how popular this guy is, even in the streets of Detroit. Man, so strap the rocket to him and let him go.
It's time.
Yeah.
This is what has cost so many potential superstars these big breakout moments. Shawn and I were talking about Brodus Clay earlier, and he's one of these guys like, man, if they had done a little bit more with him, he really could have been something. Please, 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 WWE, if you do nothing else, do not screw up LA Knight.
Right.
Like, this guy's got it, and he's been the first one in a long time that has really got that it factor and then some. Along those lines, we got to talk about Seth freaking Rollins here. The World Heavyweight Champion puts his title on the line against Finn Balor. This was actually the second time these two have competed at a SummerSlam, and I loved the fact that they tied in a little bit of their history with this match. However, you kind of knew what was going in with this, with all of the shenanigans with the Judgment Day. You've got Damian Priest as a senior Money in the Bank, which I absolutely love, by the way.
I like that too.
Seth Rollins, World Championship. He retains the title. Shawn, where was this match for you? I know how you feel about the world title as a whole. It's a secondary championship when you compare it to Roman Reigns because of the length and the prestige of the championship. But where was this match for you in terms of a potential title match? Did it live up to an expectation of a title match?
I thought it was a good match. I mean, one of the I'm not a fan of either one of these guys. What I am a fan of is crowd participation, and hearing that crowd sing Seth Rollins to the ring is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do look at Seth Rollins as the runner-up champion in WWE. Finn Balor, your first undisputed heavyweight champion who got to hold the belt for 30 seconds.
Right.
It was kind of cool. He had the 7 on his shoulder,
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
and they told a little story there. But for me, it was just another match on paper. Just something I have to get through so I can see the main event.
Right. Is that how you felt about this?
This is the first match where I actually like both people. So for you to say, but yeah, the beginning when everyone's like, "Whoa," that was amazing. My only complaints was I just saw this match like last month. They
Right.
just had it felt like the exact same thing. I felt like I
Yeah.
just watched a repeat.
And there's a lot to that, but at the same time, you look back at when we were growing up, like the rematch was something that you wanted to see, but now because of the way the product has, I guess, evolved, if that's what you want to call it, people don't have the patience to play out these storylines, these rivalries, right? Because how many matches did Hogan and Savage have? How many
Right.
matches did Ric Flair have with Nikita Koloff? We're talking, months and months, years worth, right? Granted, it wasn't on pay-per-view, but at the same time, Finn Balor, I mean, did you have hope for him in this, or did you just know that?
I did have hope.
Did you?
I was actually going for Balor. I wanted Balor to get the belt. I mean, and to me, this was my favorite match of the night. Watching it live, the crowd, we were all on the edge of our seats for those near falls. I mean, that's what pretty much made it for us. The near falls towards the end of the match. I thought Balor had it when he hit the stomp. The coup de grace, I thought that was it. I was ready to start singing Balor song, but to me, it was the best match of the night. As far as the rematches go, I think the problem is we see too many of them. We had Brock and Cody rematch. Now we got Seth and Finn in a rematch, and Roman and Jay is a rematch.
Right.
I mean, it's. I feel like we're seeing them a little bit too consistent. And I believe some of them don't need to happen. Like the Finn, and when they first announced Finn Balor and Seth Rollins, I was like, oh man, I'm kind of surprised they're going this route. I actually
I
thought they
was
were
too.
going to go a different route. That was the most surprising rematch for me. But as far as the match goes, man, I thought it was excellent.
See, I would have rather, honestly, and I know you asked the questions, but I'm going to ask a question this time. On paper, what would have been a better match? Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor in the rubber match, or whatever you want to call it, or Seth Rollins versus Dirty Dom, title for title, North American.
That would have been. I kind of wish that they had gone that route. Like, I am critical of Dominic Mysterio, but I love what they're doing with him.
He's the biggest heel
He
in the
is.
company. I mean, he was main eventing for a straight month on every show.
Right.
And then he's not even on the card.
They
true.
did a thing where they broke down the numbers, and more people are tuning into his segments when he's on NXT. I mean, we're talking when they go from 750,000 viewers to into the 800,000s on the nights that he is wrestling.
Yep.
Putting the North American title on him, I had questions about it at first, but at the same time, it's like, holy crap, this is one of those rare instances where the wrestler and the title are helping each other.
Yeah, right,
And you don't
yeah.
see that very often. One usually
Yeah.
makes the other. So having a title for a title and put on NXT, and that's not even their heavyweight title, their secondary title on par with the World Heavyweight Championship and a title for title situation would have been huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Another huge match in terms of star power, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, in the women's division, it really comes down to 3 or 4 of them. Well, 3 of them were involved in this match. It was Asuka putting the women's title on the line in a triple threat against Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. Now, Brian Q and I all had a different prediction, and it was just a matter of which one was going to come out. I'm happy to say I won this. Bianca Belair does pick up the win and regains the WWE Women's Championship, but that title victory, Brian, kind of cut short, was it not?
Yes, it was.
We had the cash in for Money in the Bank. Io Sky comes in, wins the title. I didn't really think they were going to pull the trigger on it at SummerSlam, but they did. So what's that do for Io Sky?
I'm interested in who they pitted against her first.
It's going to be Shayna.
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
You don't think that they would get her involved with a Bianca Belair in a rematch to kind of get her feet under her? Because, listen, it's a prop, yes. Make no mistake about it. But they're selective of who they put the titles on. And there is, I don't care what you say, there is a different mentality when you are going into a match or a program and you are defending or you are going after a recognized championship, especially with something like this, the women's title, because there's only, a select few numbers of big stars. Io Sky, I mean, are they going to really throw her to the wolves? Because I feel like with Shayna Baszler, that is a complete contrast and kind of a hell of a first step after just winning the title.
Honestly, I feel she's a transitional champion. I think that they put it on her just so that we can get Shayna Baszler versus Bianca Belair, because I think that's going to be your story. I think that's going to be your match. I think Charlotte is going to go do her thing. She's going to disappear again. Asuka, I mean, really, Asuka. I know she just lost the title, but what has she done relevant previous to that title run? Right. I think really the story is going to be Shayna and Bianca, and you're going to have Bayley probably try to get involved in that when she's all healed up. That's where the money's going to be.
I forgot about Bayley being involved, because she's been on the shelf. She has been injured and everything like this. The ending here, Brian, with Charlotte having the figure 8 applied, Asuka comes into the shot, blows the blue mist in her face. As far as endings go for these matches on this night, that was probably my favorite ending of a match.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree?
Agree. That was like, as much as Logan Paul and Ricochet were trying to hit that high spot, Bianca going off the top and hitting Charlotte while she was in the figure 8, and then they hit that perfect. It looked amazing.
Yeah.
What that look like in the real time, from your perspective?
Oh, it looked great. I was just happy that Bianca wasn't hurt for real, because when she fell off of that turnbuckle and hit them steps, the angle that we got, it looked like it was legit. I've never seen the ref throw up no X or anything like that, so we kind of felt like maybe we missed it.
Right.
But just to see her get back in there and do the 450, that was pretty sweet. I enjoyed the match at the end. How they got there. Seemed like it took forever.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it at the end. I like the end.
21 minutes that this match went, and it's one of the longest matches on the card. And then it brings us down to the main event. Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief. This was a tribal combat match for the undisputed Universal Championship. Now, it's supposed to be one-on-one, no outside interference. It's supposed to be, not just the title on the line, but it was so much more. It was that role of Tribal Chief, the head of the table, because the Samoan family, the bloodline storyline has dominated WWE for a long time now. So Roman and Jey Uso headlines this thing. Main event Jey Uso, as they're calling them. Kind of already knew where they were going with this. Like, it would have been cool to have that moment, but Jey Uso was not the guy on this day. Q, did you have any hope that Jey was going to be the one to end this historic stranglehold that the Tribal Chief has on the WWE Championship?
Absolutely not. I like Jey. I like Jimmy, but this was probably the most predictable match. It was the ending that was, to me, was just a bunch of hot shot stuff. It's like, we just need to extend this story because of how many ratings that we're getting on TV. So we're gonna do we're gonna do some Vince Russo stuff. That's pretty much what I got out of this.
Oh. You broke out of Vince Russo. Okay, that's great. You've made no bones about the fact that Jey Uso just isn't that guy. He's not a believable main event guy. Having been in the spotlight, and yes, this is the second time that Jey and Roman have headlined a pay-per-view, but if you recall, the last time was in the Thunderdome, and it was in front of the video screens. This being the first one in front of a live crowd, 60,000 people or what have you. Did Jey's performance in this match, Brian, did he impress you? Do you have a better appreciation of him? And do you see him as a viable threat in the main event picture as a solo act here?
No.
Really?
I don't. I don't even know where my cap for him would be, like along the lines of the titles. Like, I guess I could see him maybe getting to Intercontinental, but not much more than that. Like, I feel like the big match for him is going to be him versus Jimmy. That's the match that's coming down to, and that's the match we're going to see probably at WrestleMania.
I was going to say, and that was going to be my question for you, Shawn. Can they draw out Jey versus his twin brother until WrestleMania?
No.
Do they have enough there or no?
No, it didn't work with the Hardy Boys. It didn't work, with other brother tag teams, It's not going to work for Jimmy and Jey. They are a tag team. And the thing about it is they are a good tag team. Like, you can't pick out the Marty from the Shawn in this tag team. That's them. They are a tag team. But there is one thing I want to bring up about this match that you guys are all forgetting about, and that's the national treasure that we have in Paul Heyman.
Yeah, for sure.
That guy told the story out there for those boys, screaming at, Jey that, he's your blood, he's your tribal chief, and just the tears and the screaming. I love Paul Heyman. We need more Paul Heymans in wrestling.
I agree.
He was amazing. And this match, it was all right, except for, the interference that wasn't supposed to happen. And,
right.
All that other stuff.
Now we've talked about this on the podcasts. We've alluded to it here on the show, on the Clouse Q Show. Now that SummerSlam is done and it's in the history books, Roman Reigns is still the Universal Champion. That title reign, maintains. Is Solo Sikoa the next guy, the next opponent for Roman Reigns, or is there somebody else kind of waiting in the wings here?
You know what kind of upset me a little bit about this pay-per-view? And I'm going to go completely off script here. We have a strike happening in Hollywood right now. The Screen Actors Guild's on
I
strike.
don't know exactly where you're going. Go ahead.
Let's just put it out there. The Rock. Why couldn't, number one, The Rock showed up at SummerSlam and been part of that, interference,
Right.
and then confronted the tribal chief, and that would have been such a huge story and a build to WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go ahead and say it now. You put Roman Reigns over The Rock at WrestleMania,
Yep.
and you have solidified him as one of the most dominant champions in WWE history.
That is as perfect of a bookings scenario, because there was a lot of rumors going up to the day of, Brian, that The Rock was coming to Detroit to be a part of this thing. Obviously, that did not happen. But my God, they would have blown the roof off of Ford
Yeah,
Field
I know.
if
For sure.
that first. If you just heard that, if you smell, like it would have
we
been
were
over,
waiting.
right?
We were waiting.
Were you guys chanting Rock's name?
I was waiting. I had the phone out and everything. I was waiting. They kept playing Roman's music, and I'm like, nothing.
Who's the next guy for Roman?
I can see them doing a four corners or fatal four way
Okay.
with the bloodline.
There's there's so much more that we could dive into this and break this apart. We try to do as best as we could within about an hour long show here. We could look at the guys that were not on the card that should have been on the card. Could that have boosted the overall success of this show? Because by the numbers, it smashed a bunch of records. The gate was all-time high. It was an attendance record in some regards. A lot of success can be attributed to SummerSlam, but from a fan perspective, there's a lot that they could have done to really add a depth and to make this installment what it was or what it could be in terms of the all-time great SummerSlam events in history. You talk about guys that put a show, or in this case, the entire industry on his shoulders, and you know where I'm going with this. I told you this was going to be the thing. On his shoulders and bring professional wrestling to the mainstream. Well, that's part 2 of our celebration here, because it is August 11th. And in my world, and for a lot of people around the world, August 11th is circled on our calendars because it is, for us, for wrestling fans, it is a holiday of sorts. It is Hulk Hogan's birthday here. He turned 70 years old today, and we wanted to take an opportunity, or at least I did, to express my gratitude for all the years of entertainment. Think what you want about the guy, personally or professionally. Make no mistake about it. Professional wrestling would not be where it is here today. Would not be where it is today without that guy on the screen. Shawn, where's Hulk Hogan on your radar?
Always been number one, always will be number one since the early 80s till now. I love Hulk Hogan.
Brian?
100%. That's my childhood.
Yeah.
I remember watching all the old pay-per-views and sitting there and cheering him on. I mean, it was usually him versus some foreign opponent, so you had to cheer for him.
Right.
But I mean, even if it wasn't, you would have.
Right.
He had us all wrapped up, and then his movies started coming out, and they were so much fun to watch. It's just nostalgia. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Q, Hulk Hogan.
Hogan's the man. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for, him putting wrestling on the map like that. Even the NWO phase of Hogan, he can do a lot, man, and he's done a lot.
He has really transcended the entire business, has reinvented himself time and time again. And look, he's one of the more polarizing figures because in this day and age where everything is out in the open on social media and stuff like this, like people have an opinion of him personally or whatever, talking from his impact on professional wrestling, and that's what brought, in some regards, brought all of us on one common ground. It was that thread. He was that thread, and he sparked an entire industry to become what is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and at the top of that list is World Wrestling Entertainment. That would not be a thing if it was not for Hulk Hogan. Now, we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this episode, and we certainly appreciate everybody tuning in for this very special edition. We thank Shawn Grugel and Brian Bolf for taking time out for the Stan Lee of our operation. You can hear Shawn every Wednesday with me on Power Tripping Through the 80s on the PFC Entertainment Network. Q, you and I are going to do this. We've got the next 4 dates mapped out for the rest of the year, so you guys are stuck with us at least until the end of the year. We'll be back here live on September the 29th. Friday night, we start at 6 p.m. Stay tuned for all of our social media accounts and, of course, clouseoftheheart.net, the official website of the PFC network. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Everybody take your vitamins, drink your milk, say your prayers. See you later, brother.
Believe in yourself. We'll see you right back here on September the 29th for the next installment of the Clouse Q Show, exclusively on ONTV.